And my own personal dream is that there will be a secular, democratic Palestine that includes all the ones who live there, except for the criminals, the Israeli criminals. And as far as the Palestinians, they have the right to resist. They have the right to resist. Never mind what group or what they're doing. I put all of the violence that the Palestinians use at their disposal to resist occupation and oppression. I put that at the feet of Israel.
This isn't like a student. This is Cam Higby is his name. God, yeah, Cam Higby. The pro-Palestiners are not doing the movement any help by refusing to talk to any of these people and letting freaking Cam Higby talk over them.
It's still a super low death toll for an armed conflict in the modern age, especially one that is being fought in the most population-dense place in the entire world. There's 2.1 million people living in Gaza. That's a lot of people. Whereas Mariupol only had 400,000. They don't care.
Okay, listen, to Steelman here, there's going to be the death count doesn't include people who they can't find, who are like trapped on a rubble, which is estimated to be like another 10,000. Secondly, okay, well, if I steelmanned the pro-Palestine, I might as well do my pro-Israel Hasbara here.
They demarked safe zones and they bomb them.
So there is no safe zone in Gaza. The reason there is no safe zone in Gaza is because it takes 2 people to set up a safe zone, right? Hamas is the barrier there, because Hamas operates out of refugee camps. Hamas operates close to the evacuation routes.
Well, the indicators of an apartheid state are separate legislatures, separate judicatures, separate education systems, and separate like voting cards or IDs, and all of those exist.
So the question I would love to ask this guy is what is apartheid get across that occupation doesn't? Because occupation explains all of these things that he just mentioned.
Why is this a historic event?
And they're taking over a building right behind me. This is borderline terroristic activities. This is domestic terrorism.
Borderline terroristic activities. I don't know if I would say that. Terroristic activities? I don't even know if I would say that the attacks on the Capitol right now are terroristic activities.
Well, first, they have these talking points. There's genocide. There's no genocide. Genocide is the intentional destruction of a whole race of people. Obviously, Israel's not doing that. If they wanted to, they could easily have simply carpet bombed Gaza and they would all die. They don't want to do that.
That's what they do. You know, they drop more bombs in 6 days than all of Afghanistan.
Unprecedented steps to prevent civilian deaths, but it's war and civilians die in war. And that's
they bombed the safe zones.
That's just an example. It's also not apartheid. You can't describe the situation starting in the middle. It's just imagine that Israel was imprisoning Gaza people for no reason and not take into account that they've been launching weapons, they're launching missiles into Israel for decades, and that they have been blowing themselves up in the streets with suicide vests for decades.
With the narratives from both sides often distorting the reality on the ground, we are heading into the heart of the protests to interview those involved in the hope of finding out what they want to achieve. Excuse me, would you like to be interviewed? Okay. So, hello, sir. Would you like to be interviewed?
My understanding is that most of these encampments literally tell people not to talk to anyone there.
Yeah, but who are you?
We're independent UK media. We're trying to...
you can?
Yeah.
And are you Zionists? Zionism is a branch of fascism, okay? And what they're doing is just part of their ideology, and they want to ethnic cleanse.
Do they just interview them, or do they offer any pushback? That'd be really,
genocide, by starvation,
really
by
cool.
bombing, by causing diseases to spread, by cutting off water, by all these means is what we call, and the United Nations has recognized that, it's a genocide, is what's going on. So that's why I'm here.
How do you think we solve this crisis and this war?
Well, you know, the students and all of the other movements across the world have to rise up, have to cause their governments to divest, to economically sanction Israel, and hopefully some Israel, because there are some Israelis who want to support to end the war and end the aggression that's going on. So, but in the main part, the Middle East has to come together, rise up, push their...
What does the final settlement look like?
Collaborative, we could say comprador, but there's collaborative capitalist ruling classes of their various countries. I'm talking about Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and so forth. And they have to force their government's hand to divest, to break off relations with Israel until Israel is made, to render justice and to end the occupation. And my own personal dream is that there will be a secular, democratic Palestine that includes all the ones who live there, except for the criminals, the Israeli criminals. And as far as the Palestinians, they have the right to
Palestinian
resist.
Criminals?
They have the right to resist. Never mind what group or what they're doing. I put all of the violence that the Palestinians use at their disposal to resist occupation and oppression. I put that at the feet of Israel. It's not the Palestinians. The Palestinians have a right to resist.
Okay, so the really good question to ask is where do you draw the line between resistance and terrorism? Was it resistance when Hamas members threw grenades into civilian bomb shelters and then shot the people running out? Was it resistance when they shot innocent people sitting in their homes in the kibbutzim?
Well, history, even this country. So we need to support them.
Hello, would you like to be interviewed? We're independent UK media, no worries at all. Hey.
They don't offer any pushback.
Okay. Would you be interested in talking? You'll be right. With UK independent media, I'd like to be interviewed. Yeah, indeed.
And what do you think about the Nonfon?
Well, I'm here to talk to people, and I'm here to give you... I like to remain independent.
There's no
So,
fucking independence in this fucking world. Come on. That's from the UK. Go talk to somebody who's local 4811 official. Get the official story from local 4811, okay?
Okay.
Or somebody with a rank and file sign or something. Go get the official story.
would you not want to talk, sir? So there's a little bit of
It's half of this video just going to be them not being able to find someone to talk to because they've been
Didn't really
instructed not
expect
to
that.
tell people.
You know, I think it's, you can say like no
Or talk to
hey,
people.
I'm not interested. But there's a little bit of aggression there. But maybe this is a very contentious issue and it's kind of understandable that people are going to be aggressive. Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it's just lunchtime and he hasn't had a sandwich. When all seemed hopeless, we bumped into a group of students who introduced us to their friend Tomo, a law student here at UCLA who had some reservations about the encampments due to his own personal experiences since the Hamas attack.
I accept that people have the right to protest. I just don't believe with the terms that they say for the most part.
And what are their terms?
I think some people do support pro-Palestine because being a Zionist does not mean you're not pro-Palestinian. I think some of them are pro-Hamas, and I don't think they understand what's the difference between those two groups. Palestinians are being oppressed by Hamas, and Hamas is a terrorist organization that committed the terrible atrocities on October 7th.
Why are they not making that distinction?
It's because they're not thinking for themselves. They're being told a narrative. There's very little thinking. They're just screaming in names. Colonizer, genocide, apartheid. I keep hearing all three of these names, and they all call me buddy. Like, what's up, buddy? Yeah, buddy. Like, it's either just ad hominem attacks or just labels that they give them, and they have no way to explain them. They have a set of plans to engage in a protest on every single day, but this has been one of the biggest ones, and it's probably because Chancellor Gene Block just testified.
UCLA Chancellor Gene Block has drawn criticism over his decision to enlist police to help disband encampments, resulting in more than 200 arrests.
They took over Ackerman. They also took off Kirkhoff Hall and Moore Hall, as they did Kirkhoff Patio. But essentially, they block these institutions from being entered, so kids can't go to their classes, and then they're stuck online, and they don't do so well online, and it affects their grades. And it's going to negatively affect this institution's reputation. If all
I mean, to be fair, not all of them have disrupted classes to that extent.
the kids are online, and also it's against the policy. They promised us in person. They did online a week ago. So
You think protests aren't supposed to be disruptive? What about the civil rights protests that broke policy?
So what you're basically saying is they're preventing students from going to class. They're physically barring the way.
yeah. So for instance, I'm supposed to have an exam here soon. I'm not going to be able to have this exam here. I don't think. I have to speak out to my teachers now. So that's one problem that I'm facing. I feel very uncomfortable being here. I feel like I walked into like a war zone. Like I'm just trying to have a good time in college. Personally, for me, I feel like this whole school year was been robbed. It's like everything's political. I can't really say anything. I can't really do anything. And I'm afraid that if I say who I am, my teachers will give me low grades. So it's very frustrating for me. And
I don't know if that's
also wanna have a good time
if
with
you say who you are, you're afraid you're going to get low
my friends,
grades.
and everybody
Really?
here wants to. Everyone's really tired of this.
And what's the atmosphere like on campus at the moment?
Very dark, very gloomy. I don't like it. I feel like it's a sunny day, but it feels very dark in my soul. I don't like it.
And so what is your racial background?
My racial background, I'm Semitic. So I know there's different ways to view race, but I'm Semitic. My parents are Israeli. I'm Jewish. I was born in Florida. So I'd say Middle Eastern.
Do you feel uncomfortable being Jewish at the moment on campus?
Absolutely. Personally, I would never tell my professor I'm Jewish. I don't tell people that I know that I'm Jewish. I only would ever say to people that I know are also Jewish.
I mean, I don't want to say it's like not a valid fear, but like I don't know. Some of the students, I understand the fear there. I don't. It's just maybe it's valid. I don't know. I just feel like you're scared to tell your professors that you're Jewish. Is it really that bad?
Certain. And honestly, if I say I'm Jewish, probably people will ignore me. That's how it's been most of the time.
Was this directly after October 7th, or has it gradually seeped into the culture?
Ever since October 7th, it's been this way. Ever since October 7th. That day, just my Jewish identity, I feel like I've been targeted for it.
And has people said things to you because of the
people
fact that
don't
you're
know
Jewish? Have you been
Jewish?
threatened, etc.?
Yes, but I don't believe it's something I want to say on camera.
Violence erupting on the campus of UCLA overnight.
Tensions again flaring up over the war in Gaza.
Chaos again on the campus at UCLA.
Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester.
Was UCLA the one people got mad at because the police looked like they were the ones who instigated the violence? Or not the police, sorry. The counter-protesters were the ones who instigated the violence, and then the police mostly went after the people who didn't instigate the Palestine protesters.
Their college education.
I feel like that was UCLA. UCLA protest arrest. What if I just look up counter-protest? Counter-protest class at UCLA went unchecked by police for hours. Yeah, people were mad about this. I remember. Yeah, okay.
Why do you think this has erupted in the manner that it has?
These people are communists. It's not a conspiracy theory. Another thing that I noticed inside their camps is
I think this isn't like a student. This is Cam Higby is his name. God, Cam Higby. The pro-Palestiners are not doing the movement any help by refusing to talk to any of these people and letting freaking Cam Higby talk over them. Why did he debate Jackson and Hinkle, dude?
71% of the population in South Africa during apartheid may have been black.
Ultimately, the way I see it,
how does this guy's most popular videos from 3 years ago, and he has 56k views. And the next one is 11k views. How does this guy get such big debates? Or is Jackson Hinkle just less popular than I think he is? Or is this guy more popular than I think he is?
Always Marxist literature. The revolutionary communists are here. They're somewhere right behind me. I've seen them every day that I've been here. There is communist posters everywhere. There's when I was in the encampment that was over here at Royce, there was hammer and sickles spray painted all over the floor inside the encampment. It was the second most common symbol that I saw other than the Palestinian flag. I went undercover inside the camp. So I think the ringleaders are communists.
I went undercover inside the Palestine encampment
as a catalyst to get people out, and then they slowly try to convert them. They read communist literature at their assemblies. So I think that's why it's erupted. These people, like, they don't. There's no way they care this much about Gaza. Like, it's a big conflict that's happening, but there are very clearly ulterior motives. They talk a lot about intersectionality, race issues, gay issues, ableism, pretty much anything that could apply to everyone to draw them in. So if you are literally a walking, living, breathing human being, there's probably something they could use to draw you in.
Do you think part of it as well is this is really the first war that has erupted in the social media age? So people are seeing clips of war, which is obviously horrible and awful, children being killed, women being killed, and that has really triggered a lot of people.
I mean, no, I don't think so. Ukraine, that erupted in the media age. There's plenty of people in Ukraine with cell phones, probably more than in Gaza. And also the Ukraine war is way worse. They're talking about 30,000 dead. When Russia invaded Mariupol with a population of 400,000, significantly lower population density, they killed 30,000 people in the first 30 days. They don't care about people dying. Like, the death toll for this conflict, even if we accept the Hamas reported numbers, which are, they've been debunked by like Abraham Weiner, professor of data science and statistics at the University of Penn-Wharton. But even if we accept them, it's still a super low death toll for an armed conflict in the modern age, especially one that is being fought in the most population-dense place in the entire world. There's 2.1 million people living in Gaza. That's a lot of people. Whereas Mariupol only had 400,000. They don't care.
Okay, listen to Steelman here. There's going to be one. Okay. Steelman 1 is going to be the death count doesn't include people who they can't find, who are like trapped on a rubble, which is estimated to be like another 10,000. Secondly, people use all the stats of Israel Israel dropping more bombs in 6 months than were dropped in all of World War II or something. Israel drops more bombs in 6 days. 6,000 bombs in Gaza, 6 days, nearly matching U.S. total in Afghanistan in 1 year. Yeah, people mention this. Why are you doing this in such a small, densely populated area? And then they'll also mention, I don't know, it's hard to steal, man. They'll also mention things like the white phosphorus. Why is Israel using white phosphorus in such a densely populated area? And then you can say, I think this one's bad, but you can say, oh, well, that may be true that the death count is relatively low, but the like displacement rate is like super high. It's like 90 to 100% of Gaza has been displaced from their homes, and they've all been driven into Rafah. And then Israel said they wouldn't invade Rafah, and then Israel invaded Rafah. They'll say Rafah is a safe zone, and then but now Israel's invading Rafah, and they'll say there is no safe area in Gaza. You can also bring up the percent of Gaza that's been destroyed from all these bombings. Somewhere between like 30 to 60% of homes have been destroyed. Yeah.
Care about people dying. If they did, they would have done the same thing for Ukraine, but we never saw it. We did see some protesters for Ukraine, but nothing like this. There's very clearly ulterior motives.
Do you think part of it as well is the fact that the US have supported Ukraine, whereas Israel have always been a long-term ally of the US?
Yeah, it could be partly that. They inside their encampment when I was in there, they had signs that said like "Down with the West." When I was at Berkeley, I found pamphlets that said "No more USA, no more Israel, Italy." Pretty much every white Western country, think of UK. So they don't like America, and I think they're also probably sympathetic to Russia as well, which is very unfortunate. So yeah, I mean, the US was pretty quick to condemn what Russia was doing, sanction them and stuff like that, as opposed to they're not doing that with Israel, and they're way more anti-America than they are anti-Israel. So it happens to be super in line with all the things that they can attack. You know what I mean?
What are they saying? Hey, hey, ho, ho, something occupied? The occupation has got to go. Okay.
Why are you here?
I'm here to protest.
Is that Aidan Doyle? Why do they keep getting I think that's Aidan Doyle. Something like this. Aidan Doyle. Yeah, this guy. I'm pretty sure it is this guy.
What's up, everybody, and welcome.
I think that's him.
Genocide in Gaza, promote divestment. That's basically it.
Why has this particular conflict moved you to such an extent?
I started doing research in the conflict.
Dude, this guy literally debated Kim Higby. Isaac was supposed to have a debate with this guy as well, but it never ended up happening. Oh, why is it? Oh, here we go. Aidan Doyle. Kim Higby. Give me in with these people. Give me in with these somehow. I think he must have taken down the debate. God damn it. Somehow, people that aren't like significantly more popular to me. Oh, they have 16,000 subscribers, but they're able to get these interviews. What the hell? What the hell? I just show up at UCLA. Does he have like a bigger Instagram or something? We'll find it.
Long before October 7th. And just the way that the Gazan people are oppressed and the way that we fund Israel, our weapons, our money is used to not
yeah, it's way bigger on Instagram.
Just bomb kids, but also to facilitate the apartheid
border.
That's the biggest reason. If all these people weren't out here, I wouldn't be out here either. Not because I don't care, but because I didn't think that anything would change. But because we have such a powerful movement, that's really the biggest reason that I think a lot of people have come out, because we actually feel like maybe we're going to actually change something.
And what was it about the conflict that motivated you to come out? Was it seeing footage online? Was it seeing clips? Was it people talking about it? What was it about this conflict in particular?
That's a great question. It probably wasn't even the massacre that's happening right now. The thing that really strikes me is probably the apartheid in the West Bank. That's just the thing that kind of takes me aback at how outrageous and grotesque it is. The war in Gaza, the conflict in Gaza, is so inhumane and so obvious that they're targeting civilian centers. I mean, as you know, they demark safe zones and then they bomb the safe zones. They demark evacuation routes and then they bomb the evacuation routes. And then they are literally starving the population. They create bottlenecks.
There we go. This is the steel man I was giving earlier.
There's not one.
Oh, in the blockade. I should have mentioned blockade earlier as well, but the blockade.
Thing, but I think the thing that when I first started researching conflict, it was the West Bank, areas A, B, and C. And
okay. Well, if I steel manned the pro-Palestine, I might as well do my pro-Israel Hasbara here.
They demark safe zones and then they bomb.
So there is no safe zone in Gaza. The reason there is no safe zone in Gaza is because it takes two people to set up a safe zone, right? Hamas has to agree to a safe zone. Israel, from their actions, they've set up the safer zone in Gaza, the beach, the one beach, the dedicated humanitarian zone, where they try to make sure people go and they can deliver humanitarian aid there. The reason there was no safe zone in Gaza is because Hamas won't agree to one. Hamas is the barrier there. Israel would almost certainly agree to a safe zone in Gaza. Hamas is the barrier there because Hamas operates out of refugee camps. Hamas operates close to the evacuation routes. Hamas was closing the evacuation routes early on. Yeah, that's the reason there's no safe zone in Gaza. And Israel also, despite there being no safe zone, has done a ton of things to warn Gazans before they bomb these areas. That's why. But another thing people say is they'll say like Rafah was a safe zone. That's not true. Rafah or any area was never a safe zone. Just because you tell people to evacuate from one area does not make the other areas a safe zone. It just means that the area you told them to evacuate from is especially unsafe. Despite this, despite the fact that there's no safe zone, Israel has taken measures to reduce civilian casualties. They have their phone bank, which they literally call people in buildings that they're about to bomb and tell them to evacuate. They he mentioned the safe routes. They did daily pauses early on in the fighting and let people flee through dedicated protected safe routes. Now, it is true there have been times Israel's bombed the safe routes, probably because Hamas operates close to these safe routes. Hamas operates from these protected areas. They don't even hide that they do so. Yeah. Hezbollah. Oh, I saw that. Yeah, people don't that they killed children in a soccer field. Troops will come back and
the safe zones. They demark evacuation routes and they bomb the evacuation routes. And then they are literally starving the population. They create bottlenecks at crossings. So there's not one.
Oh, and the starving the population thing is somewhat true because the intent factor doesn't matter there for the crime itself. The crime is committing starvation as a method of warfare. Technically, the intent doesn't matter for that. All that matters is that starvation would follow from the ordinary course of events. So it could be the case that the blockade that restricted humanitarian aid entering the Gaza Strip does result in the in famine. What's the term I just used? In the reasonable course of events, starvation would follow. for some things you would have to like prove the intentive punitive measure there.
Particular thing, but I think the thing that when I first started
yeah, and also that's the other thing you can say. I think the last time I checked, it's probably gone up a little bit, but I think like 32-ish people have starved to death in Gaza, and most of those people had pre-existing conditions that made them more susceptible to starvation. So there's that as well.
Researching conflict, it was the West Bank, areas A, B, and C, and how there are settlements and now it's an occupied territory, and how unsettling that is to me.
And you say Gaza is an apartheid state. What do you mean by that?
Well, the indicators of an apartheid state are separate legislatures, separate judicatures, separate education systems, and separate like voting cards or IDs, and all of those exist.
So the question I would love to ask this guy is what does apartheid get across that occupation doesn't? Because occupation explains all of these things that he just mentioned. Separate legislators? Well, because it's not Israeli territory, it's an Israeli occupation.
Separate education systems.
Separate education systems. Well, I mean, it's not Israeli. It's not the Israeli government doesn't directly control it, right? Not the same government that controls, or sorry, it's the same government, but it's different. It's not like sovereign Israeli territory. It's within the occupation, and also the Palestinians are given some autonomy within that occupation. Areas B and A exist where the Palestinian Authority has autonomy.
Separate like voting cards or IDs, and all
separate voting cards and ID is also explained by the occupation. They don't have citizenship, so they can't vote. Like, yeah.
Those exist in the West Bank. In fact, discriminatory laws like the Emissions Committee law, like the Hamas law, like the Leave and Bread law.
The Emission Committee's law is a fair thing to attack.
Like terrorism, even terrorism laws, which I can get into if you want, but they're all.
But also, again, I will mention, we seem to make like an infinite number of excuses for Palestinians for their nationalist rhetoric or whatever, putting it lightly. But never for the Israelis. Like, the question could be asked, oh, well, why is the ethnic character of these Israeli neighborhoods so important to Israelis? And it seems to be the case that there haven't been many times in history where Jews have been safe in a place other than Israel.
Discriminatory, meant to target Arabs, and or I should say Palestinians, and they're meant to achieve the Zionist goal of cleansing greater Israel of all non-Jewish people, which is it's absolutely certainly in the West Bank constitutes.
I mean, Israel accepted the initial partition plan, which was like 45% Arabs, right? I mean, they've been open to two-state solutions before. Yeah, they've made deals with Egypt, and they gave up the Sinai for peace with Egypt.
Apartheid, and I would argue even in like Israel proper, even there, what's happening is so obviously discriminatory. It's wrong.
What's going on in Israel?
Apartheid is different from discrimination.
Well, that's obviously discriminatory.
There are laws that exist, like for example, the Emissions Committee law, which enable heads of neighborhoods to screen every applicant in the neighborhood, and if they don't like it, they don't have to have a reason. They can reject that person. And actually, this works against Jewish people as well. This works against Palestinians, works against Jews. But it's a discriminatory law that disproportionately targets Palestinians living in Israel. Now, there are also laws like if you're a Palestinian resident, and obviously the housing laws in Israel are such that you're actually encouraged to be a resident rather than a citizen because it's cheaper for you to live there as a Palestinian. And so the laws are such that if you're
I think that's true within East Jerusalem, because I think technically the people in occupied East Jerusalem, I can't speak today, I don't know why, can get Israeli citizenship, but many of them don't.
If you're a policeman, if you're an Israeli policeman, you can revoke the ID of any Palestinian resident at any time. And then obviously there's stop and frisk laws. You can debate, well, are those really discriminatory? But obviously they disproportionately target Arabs or Palestinians living in Palestine.
In apartheid, just arguing what the two parties mutually agreed in the Oslo's apartheid. The reason there was never any further agreement after Oslo, apartheid can be mostly blamed on Abbas and Hamas. True. Yeah, I mean, there are certain things. The problem is Oslo didn't address a lot of these specific things. Like, I don't even think the word occupation is used in the Oslo Accords. Or no, I think it's used once in one of them. It didn't really address the Chris leaks. I haven't gone up. Maybe we'll go over that later and make a good easy video. I don't think it didn't really address settlements. It didn't. The Oslo Accords were never meant to be the final agreement, obviously. And the reason things didn't happen after were mostly because of Abbas and all those people.
And we go on for a long time. Even the Leave and Bread laws, they allow hospitals to decline to serve Palestinian or Arab patients in Israeli hospitals. Any food that has
I haven't heard of this one.
Laws you can debate, well, are those really discriminatory? But obviously, they disproportionately target Arabs or Palestinians living in Palestine. And then we go on for a long time. Even the Leave and Bread laws, they allow
the what laws?
Hospitals disproportionately target Arabs or Palestinians living in Palestine. And then we go on for a long time. Even the Leave and Bread laws, they allow
leave bread laws?
They allow Palestine. And then we can go on for a long time. Even the Leave and Bread laws, they allow
banning all leaven bread products that are not kosher for Passover in hospitals.
They allow hospitals to decline to serve Palestinian or Arab patients in Israeli hospitals any food that has any leaven food or during Passover.
Is that really apartheid? That's just okay. I don't know if that's necessarily apartheid. You think this guy critically thinks or just parrots talking points? I have the latter since he states bold claims very simply without much context. I watched this dude, Isaac, made a video about this guy. The one time he made a claim about the Rafah strike. I think he just parrots talking points considering he doesn't seem to know like anything about international law or how any of the things worked. God damn it. Stupid thorium. There we go.
Which is, this religious discrimination.
What do you think is a solution, and what would you like to see as a solution in the Middle East?
God, I feel like it's normal speed, but I feel like it's super slow.
Well, ideally, I like a one-state solution. Everyone has equal rights, equal
Right, okay.
And obviously, I'd like in principle to have a right of return, but practically, I think the best we can hope for is return to pre-1967 borders, which actually Hamas has said that they'd be open to agreeing with.
Hamas has said that they might be open to that for a maximum of 15 years.
Hamas doesn't want any sort of peace or any sort of negotiation. They said we're open to return to 1967 borders. Palestinian Authority has obviously made many concessions.
And that's ignoring, like, this is what I think this is another reason why I think it is parrots talking points. Because if you actually, if you read the charter, let's read the charter that supposedly says that they accept the pre-67 borders, okay? Hamas believes that no part of the land of Palestine shall be compromised or conceded, irrespective of the cause and circumstances and the pressures, and no matter how long the occupation lasts. Hamas rejects any alternative to the full and complete liberation of Palestine from the river to the sea. Okay, here's the part that they will say, accepts the 67 borders. However, without compromising its rejection of the Zionist entity and without relinquishing any Palestinian rights, Hamas considers the establishment of a fully sovereign and independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as capital along the lines of the 4th of June 1967, with the return of refugees and the displaced of their homes to be formula, or for which they're expelled to be a formula of national consensus. Really, this was really just an effort to have a truce with Fatah and let Fatah negotiate on behalf of them, because Israel doesn't really want to negotiate with Hamas. And then there's the strategy of phases things, which people will use strategy of phases in a bad faith way, but this is Hamas we're talking about, so it's really a strategy of phases. Accept a two-state solution and work from there to destroy Israel, basically. Anyway. Makes people think that Hamas accepts a two-state solution, when in reality they're resorting to a strategy phase where Palestine can get a state before conquering all Israel. Notice how it states Hamas believes that no part of the land of Palestine shall be compromised or conceded. Earlier in Article 2, it states, Palestine, which extends from the River Jordan in the east and the Mediterranean in the west to those in the north and south, is an integral territorial unit. It's a land and home of the Palestinian people. The expulsion and banishment of the Palestinian people from their land and the establishment of the Zionist entity therein do not annul the right of the Palestinian people to their entire land, and do not entrench any rights therein for the usurping Zionist entity. And then also in Article 19, the article right before this, there shall be no recognition of the legitimacy of the Zionist entity. Whatever has befallen the land of Palestine in terms of occupation, settlement building, devastation, or changes to its features or falsifications of facts is illegitimate. Rights never lapse.
There probably be land swaps, right? So Israel gives land in order to take back their settlements. I personally like to see all the settlements disbanded because they're out of ordinance with international law. And then
did he say Israel disbanded?
1967 borders. Palestinian Authority has obviously made many concessions. There probably be land swaps, right? So Israel gives land in order to take back their settlements. I personally like to see all the settlements disbanded because they're out of ordinance.
Oh, all the settlements disbanded.
And then obviously the West Bank. The West Bank needs to take control of I think everything, all the West Bank back, and then Gaza should return at the very least to the Green Line, which Israel has obviously infringed upon by building walls that expand past the Green Line. So this, and then obviously monetary concessions for the horrible crimes that they've committed against Gaza. Mostly, a lot of the past 20 years, but really over the past 75 years. And then rebuilding of infrastructure in Gaza needs to be made without investments that would exploit the Gaza people. Obviously, American business owners have gone to third world countries and they've built businesses, and in a certain way they help the population, but then they also exploit people. It can't be the case where Israeli business owners are going to Gaza, investing and building businesses and building infrastructure, and then they reap all the benefits, right? So there has to be a system where we know that the money is going to good things, that we know where the money is actually going to building Gaza into a better place, but we also can't have Israel control that because there's obviously conflicts of interest.
So how much responsibility should Hamas take for this war, considering what happened with October 7th?
For this war, they obviously, well, October 7th is what kicked off this immediate conflict. But I think if you look at the Israeli doctrine, the way Israel treated Gaza over the past 20 years in particular, there's no question in anyone's mind that Israel, actually the way Israel has operated in the 1982 invasion of Lebanon, in 2006 and 2008, Operation Protective Edge, all the operations in the past 20 years and even before, Israel waits for the slightest provocation. I'm not saying October 7th was slight, but they wait for the slightest provocation.
Slightest provocation.
1,000 people. It's what's called mowing the lawn. And so...
mowing the lawn. He also doesn't understand the mowing the lawn thing. I forget what video where you watched where he went over this. He was like... Israel has the mowing the lawn doctrine where they every 5 years want to go in and kill Palestinians because they love killing Palestinians so much. That wasn't exactly what he said, obviously, but that was the thing that I took away from it. I should find the video so I know I'm like not misquoting him. But the mowing the lawn doctrine was after Hamas attacks, you attack back and destroy their military capacity so they can't launch attacks against you anymore. That's what like Operation Cast Light or Protective Edge were like.
This was going to happen no matter what. Does Hamas take responsibility? Should Hamas take responsibility? Of course.
Yeah, see, like, this is going to happen no matter what. Like,
in some ways, they shouldn't kill innocent civilians. That being said, something like this, it was going to happen anyways. It was going to happen anyways. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Israel would have tried to wage a war.
Yeah, see, the mowing around thing. He also doesn't. I think he knows that Hamas attacked first in most of them.
Asymmetrical war against Gazans no matter what.
So, Hamas have been classified as a terrorist organization by multiple governments, including my own. Do you think Hamas can negotiate an agreement in good faith with the Israeli government, especially considering the October 7th massacre?
A permanent agreement or a temporary one?
Every time that Hamas negotiated an agreement with Israel, say take 2006 for example, Abu Nidal Shabura was assassinated by Israel. In 2008, a couple of Gaza civilians were massacred on the beach. Both ceasefires ended by Israel.
The civilians massacred on the beach.
In 2014, Israel made up a story about Hamas kidnapping 3 Israeli teenagers, which they denied, and there's no evidence for it, and then they attacked anyways. So I'm not.
They made that up? No, maybe we'll look into that later. Israel 2014. Made up story. Hamas wanted to negotiate an agreement for ceasefire, then break it as soon as Israel leaves. Well, I don't know, like, clearly Hamas is to some extent capable of agreeing to temporary ceasefires, but I don't know why you would ever expect a literal jihadist organization to have a permanent ceasefire of Israel and ever be okay with Israel's existence when we just read their charter that has like 3 different articles saying that they will never accept the Zionist entity. That's their updated 2017 charter too. About hostages being taken. What else did he say?
I'm not saying 14, Israel made up a couple of Gaza civilians were massacred on the beach.
I know the beach, I'm assuming, is the case where there were like 4 children playing on the beach by the fishing hut that I guess Hamas had previously used, or maybe it was a shipping container that Hamas had operated out of previously, and Israel mistakenly killed them in a drone strike. Maybe it is. Jesus, the Israeli right is correct. The peace would only ever be a piece of paper to the Palestinians. Yeah, well, like. For Hamas, it's definitely true.
And ceasefires ended by Israel. In 2014, Israel made up a story about Hamas kidnapping 3 Israeli teenagers, which they denied, and there's no evidence for it, and then they attacked anyways. So,
well, if Hamas denied
I'm not saying that Hamas is like a beautiful, peaceful organization. Of course not. But then October 7th was really, really, atrocious. And the videos coming out of there are absolutely terrible. That being said, if you're worried about a willing negotiator, an honest negotiator, I'd actually be more worried about Israel. And I'm just going off the history of Israel.
So there was the ceasefire October 6th, right?
Somebody fucking walking me.
So what's your name?
My name is SJC on kick.com.
Are you a student here at SJC?
No, but some of my friends are. A lot of my friends are.
Okay. So what brought you down to the protest?
All these Hamas and Fatah perpetrated horrid crimes against Jewish people. True.
To document history. This is a historic event.
Although people, to be fair, people just say Israel does the same thing. Obviously, I'll say Israel's actions are usually justified in self-defense. But
I believe in freedom of speech. I want to hear both sides personally.
Why is this a historic event?
They're taking over a building right behind me. This is borderline terroristic activities. This is domestic terrorism.
Borderline terroristic activities. I don't know if I would say that. Terroristic activities? I don't even know if I would say that the attacks on the Capitol right now are terroristic activities.
I see. What makes you think it's domestic terrorism?
To take over an entire building like this, we know their intentions, but is this really sending a message? Is this really sending a message to somewhere else in the world? Do they really know? Are they going to hear this message? Like, is it going to make a difference? Reality.
They might argue that every significant movement that's happened in the world started with protesting. If you think about the civil rights movement, they would argue that maybe this is their civil rights.
It might be, but I mean, we have bigger problems here on the home front. And in all fairness.
So you think that they should be more focused on what particular issues as opposed to this one, SJC?
We have a lot of financial issues here domestically. We have a lot of social issues here on the home front. I feel like these issues should be looked at first.
So you're somebody who thinks, and I don't mean it to have the weight that it carries, but America first, so that you should be looking at issues that impact American citizens first, as opposed to what's happening overseas.
I mean, there's a lot of cheap fentanyl coming into this country. I've had a lot of friends die personally from fentanyl overdose. I've gone to their funerals. So I can, I've witnessed statistics.
So you think that we should be focusing more on that than what's happening overseas?
Yeah, most definitely.
Where's the fentanyl encampments?
I think we have.
Actually, that's just called LA.
More issues here. I mean, we have the financial issue. That's the deficit's just getting higher. That ceiling they keep on raising.
The deficit.
How much longer can we do that for?
Are you a lecturer, an academic?
Protest is important.
Yes,
fentanyl, I know.
And so why have you come here?
I come here to support the students. I am definitely a part of this
I cannot understand this guy.
against the genocide in Gaza. I strongly oppose Zionism as a settler colonial ideology and as a fascist ideology, in fact. So I am against any form of injustice, whether against Palestinian, whether against Jewish, whether against any other groups, blacks, for that reason. So I'm here to just do what I'm supposed to do, my ethical responsibility to defenseless Palestinians who are being slaughtered in the hand of the United States of America. That is my country.
Get himself in a Hilton immediately.
Israel, the Zionist state of Israel.
Why do you equate Zionism to fascism?
One, it is a supremacist ideology. Second, the phenomenon of chosen race, chosen group, chosen religion, it falls under fascism. And it is, of course, a perception that other people, aside from Zionists, have no business of being here, and that is the occupied land. So it is definitely a perception that was even launched by the so-called European Jewish, who, according to many Jewish, have nothing to do with Judaism. So, I mean, this is my short answer to you.
That being the case, how much responsibility do you think Hamas should take for the war at the moment if we look at October 7th?
First of all, see, the issue is this. One, I am against the killing of any innocent children, any innocent human beings, for that sake. But
it's a good, strong starting point.
Regarding to Hamas and October 7, I think this is a wrong approach. The issue of Palestine is a very old issue. The ethnic cleansing of Palestinians has been going on for more than 76 years. Not only, because according to many scholars, they tried many things, but it didn't work. Until the full occupation and the full ethnic cleansing. So starting with October 7, it is a wrong approach. However, if you are occupied, if you are being treated as half human being, or according to Ministry of War,
resistance is justified.
As an animal, human, then you have right to resist.
There we go. There it
I
is.
will actually reverse that question to you. What will happen if somebody, one of your neighbor, or somebody from another city, let's assume that you are from London, somebody from another city comes and occupy your house and shoot your child and rape somebody in your family? What do you do? If you can attack them, do you attack them or no? Is that a natural, even animal that according to, if you pursue, even animal intuitively defends themselves. It is one of the nature of all beings, as simple as that.
Okay.
You defend yourself to not be killed, to survive. It is universal.
Stop the killing of the children. Those kids are innocent. They did nothing to deserve what they're going through.
You're an alumnus and a visitor to the library. And what do you think of the protests happening at the moment, Rex?
It's frustrating because you can't talk to the protesters.
And why does that frustrate you?
True. I don't think they've talked to sort of one protester this entire time, and it's Aidan Doyle, who has his own platform.
Because they are, in my view, demonstrating as something false and dangerously false that's the result of ignorance, and they do not want to even begin the steps of educating themselves. And if they won't talk to anybody, how are they ever going to change? And if they want to say I'm wrong, they could say I'm wrong, but they won't talk.
And why is it that what they believe is false, or to use your term, dangerously false?
Well, first, they have these talking points. There's genocide. There's no genocide. Genocide is the intentional destruction of a whole race of people. Obviously, Israel's not doing that. If they wanted to, they could easily have simply carpet bombed Gaza, and they would all die. They don't want to do that.
That's what they do. They drop more bombs in 6 days than all of Afghanistan.
Unprecedented steps to prevent civilian deaths, but it's war, and civilians die in war. And
they bombed the safe zones.
That's just an example. It's also not apartheid. You can't describe the situation starting in the middle and just imagine that Israel is imprisoning Gaza people for no reason and not take into account that they've been launching weapons, they're launching missiles into Israel for decades, and that they have been blowing themselves up in the streets with suicide vests for decades. You can't start in the middle and just say, look at what's happening. They don't let us do this. They don't let us do that. You have to say there's a reason, because they're in a state of war. People in a state of war don't have civil rights. They're basically prisoners because they are enemies. So if they don't want to be enemies, they should end the state of war. They can't demand civil rights when they're in the state of war. That's something to say to them, but I can't say to that. Say to them because nobody's listening.
And why do you think nobody's listening, Rex?
They've been told not to talk.
Who by?
I don't know exactly what they're called, but they're organizers. They tell me
I'll tell them not to talk. The PDFs were leaked a while ago.
They've been instructed by media specialists. I don't know who they are. I've talked to them, but I still don't know who they are. And they just go through the talking points, and you can't talk to them either, because as soon as you say there's no genocide, there's no apartheid, there's no ethnic cleansing, they just move on one to the next to the next. You don't have a conversation, because as soon as you get to the end of the list, they walk away.
And why do you think that this issue has mobilized so many people out to come and demonstrate, as opposed to all the others?
I don't know. I just watched the video that claimed it was because it was a Russian strategy, and that it's been picked up from their propaganda. I don't know if that's true. Actually, I don't have
Some of it is Russian bots. Some of it is also that article.
any reason. It's very strange. Of course, they have nothing to do with Palestine. They don't know anything about it. They don't even try to learn anything about it. But they've picked this up. It's not like the Vietnam War, where students had to go to war. I had a draft number. I was threatened by the Vietnam War. They don't have any relation to Palestine. They're picking it up because it's some kind of necessity to their participation in whatever social justice groups they have. But I don't know. I'm speculating.
As we were waiting on the steps of Moore Hall, protests started to trickle out, and it quickly became confrontational between counter-protesters and content creators. Eventually, we too were embroiled in the chaos.
Israel is fake. Israel is fake. Let me account saying that.
You guys are all fascists, right-wing, fascists. Why? Why? Okay, look at your YouTube channel. Triggernometry. You're a fascist. You're right. Why? Just like okay, like there's a KKK newspaper called the Daily Stormer. Yeah, people are right for that. They work with that.
What does this have to do with
It's the same thing. You're a publication.
It's a publication. It's a publication. There's zero correlation.
It's like, I don't understand. I'm trying to educate you.
You're telling me that there's a correlation between the KKK newspaper and YouTube channel, which makes it fascist. That's exactly what you said. There's tape of it. You can't walk yourself into a corner after you've already been backed in.
Why are you here, Jackson?
Honestly, I just heard a bunch of commotion going on, and I just wanted to show up and see what was going on. I don't have like a take on it. All of us, we don't have a take on like either side. We were just trying to figure out what was going on, because things kind of ridiculous that people are getting access blocked off. They can't go to class. Like I have buddies who can't get to class because of something that has zero relation to them. So trying to figure out what was going on, just kind of see from up close as opposed to through a TV screen.
And what effect is this having on your education?
I mean, people can't get to class, right? So if you're going to pay tuition, especially for people who are out of
Using F-Slayer taking us from a mod.
Even people who are in state, college is pricey as it is. So if your education is at a high price and you can't get to class because of something that's completely unrelated, and there's an issue and administration, there doesn't seem to be any action to resolve that issue, that's where the issue lies. And I mean, for me, like, again, I have zero affiliation with either side. I'm not educated enough to know about either side. So I'm not gonna sit here like most of these people pretend like I do. I'm telling you straight that I don't. But when my education is being limited because I can't get to class, there's people who have no idea what's going on. And I mean, so many of these people in here have zero relation to this. They're trying to ally for one reason or another, whether that be because they want to be up to date with the social media trend, or they want to feel included in some type of a community or a group. And it leads to resentment and hate from another side.
And why is it, do you think, that students have been so mobilized by this particular issue?
I think a lot of it is people want to feel a sense of community, which is understandable, right? Especially going to college. For 99.9% of people here, this is their first time. They're in a completely new area. There's a new space with new people. It's a daunting. I mean, it's a competitive school, so they feel like they're competitive against other students, and they want to feel a sense of community, which is understandable. I just don't think this is the right way to go about doing it. Being angry and violent and limiting other people's education I think that's problematic. And there are no resolutions. This is doing nothing. This is doing literally nothing. He's trying to come in, I got pushed. I got full on pushed, and then they slammed the door on me. And I was just trying to walk into class. I got pushed. I got attacked. I'm not Jewish. I'm not Palestinian. I'm a Canadian. I've done nothing. I'm getting attacked. I don't think it's fair to me, or like just innocent bystanders, that they can't go to class. They're paying $70,000 a year and they can't go and learn, and they can't go to class and they're getting attacked by these people work their ass off in high school. Like so many of them lost countless weekends doing things, studying, losing sleepover classes to be able to have this opportunity. Education is
people
privilege.
too young to know anything. True. I like the steel man here would just be don't you think protests have to be disrupted to have any type of effect? Don't you think they have to be disrupted? Don't you think they?
However it might have been, whether
it's hard
they
to justify,
whether they
obviously,
did earn and work for it. One way or another, they are here. They are students here. They are entitled to an education. If they've been accepted to college, they're paying the tuition, then that's when education doesn't become a privilege. It becomes something they are entitled to. And at this point, what we're seeing is people's education are being restricted, like literally in broad daylight, and there's nothing that anyone's doing.
Running the cop here. Some of these people, I guarantee, aren't students. Like, I've seen 40-year-old men in the building. I bet they are not students here, and they're sitting in the building, and they're kicking me out. I pay the tuition to come here, and I'm getting kicked out by people who aren't students. Like, I feel like it's unfair.
Student, he's trying to sit here and call.
I have an opinion, but I don't think I should be kicked out of my school because someone who isn't a student can come sit in my building and lock the door on me. Like, I'm paying to come here. I studied all the high school to come here. I got in. I paid, and now some guy can just show up and be like, oh no, you can't come because Palestine. You can't come.
Some of my friends had a class in here today, my age, couldn't go in because it was being blocked. Unless I was wearing the proper attire, I guess I could probably go in.
And what's your opinion of these protests?
Well, I'm a great supporter of the First Amendment. If you don't take somebody else's rights away in the process, even though these signs are very hateful, sticks and stones will break my bones. The names won't hurt me. But some of the stuff is like yelling fire in a theater. They're very hateful, anti-Semitic. You can have political opinions. You can't be racist.
Well, even broadly anti-Semitic speech should arguably be protected. It's just it's a question of whether you're infringing on other people's free speech when you're doing an encampment at a college.
In my opinion, my very humble opinion, these students have very little knowledge of history. I think their historical perspective starts the day they're born and went forward. All this doesn't happen in a vacuum.
I mean, most old people still support Israel. So. Oh, what the hell?
Where are you
from? What's your background?
I'm not going to talk to you about that. It's not about not letting
Where are you from? What's your background? What country? What country? What country? And where's your mother from? Okay. Where's your background? What's your before Argentina? Where did they come from?
I lived in
before Argentina. Where did they come from?
I'm just saying that you're coming in here and saying that they don't want Jews.
They don't allow Jews in here. Yes, that's true.
To do with Jews.
Bullshit. They don't allow Jews in here.
This guy's trolling, dude.
You know it.
And I'm part of
They don't allow.
As a Jew, I feel very safe in this.
Do they allow Zionists in here?
This is not about.
Do they allow Zionists in here?
Jewish and Zionists are different.
Tell me the
things.
difference.
There are different.
What's a Zionist? Tell me a Zionist. You're so smart. Tell me definition. One sentence. What's a Zionist? They can't tell you.
Can I explain what Zionist is?
Sure.
Zionism is the idea that Jewish people deserve their homeland. They deserve a country where they can be safe and live and thrive. That's what Zionism is. It's not about Jewish or the chosen people. It's a place where we can be safe. That's what Zion is.
Who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? Who is this guy?
You don't push me.
Slow, divest. We will not stop. We will not rest.
So we've been at the protests all day and we've been speaking to people. Quite a few people didn't want to be put on camera criticizing the protests, and quite a few people who were pro the protests didn't want to be put on camera either. But what we can see with
This is a wild discussion. It is.
that student culture has now become ever more divided. And as a result of that, what you actually see when you talk to people is deep suspicion and hostility between the two sides and the people who are caught in the middle of it. They're blocking off the entrance to the library and to classrooms so people can't go in and study. And what you were seeing widespread is this sense of antagonism. And it's actually really sad because, to be quite honest with you, I don't actually know what this achieves. It certainly doesn't help the cause of the Palestinian people who are losing their lives because of the war. It certainly doesn't help the people who want to go and study and further their education. And it certainly doesn't...
I mean, I don't want to... It's not like a... Protests can have effects. Like I think it's fair to say, like, Biden's worried about losing the support of, like, these pro-Palestine people. Now, he probably never had most of them. But, like, I think it's fair to say that there are, like, our politicians that are worried if they do something extra supportive of Israel, that they're going to be criticized for it. By all these people.
Many of them said they're deeply worried.
It's
been really interesting for me. Use of the slogans, the chanting, and the fact that they did not want to talk. I thought that the whole point of a protest movement was to protest and to put forward your point of view. And this doesn't seem to be happening. So I don't know how we're going to move this forward if people aren't willing to discuss, listen, and talk.
To a pro-Palestine protest, and I understand that the Palestinian people have been instructed not to speak to the media, but there was this guy and there was Aidan Doyle. Those were the only two pro-Palestine people that they could find to talk. I think there was literally just that one old dude, and everyone else was like mostly pro-Israel leaning or indifferent. Indifferent and just upset that that they couldn't get to class or couldn't visit the library. I don't. How does what did Cam Higby get so popular from? How does this only have 193 views?
Of the operation that Israel began, I think at this very start, you could argue that maybe they were trying to just ethnically cleanse.
There's no reason I should have 193 views when, like, my videos are getting that many views if it's like just reaction content. Hold on, where's my like recent videos? These haven't got too many views. This got 203. I'm assuming some of these will eventually pick up. Even this one, I think, took a little bit. Yeah. How was it? Maybe Jackson Hinkle uploaded it, and there's more on Jackson Hinkle's channel.
And I think that there was a valid debate to be had there. I don't really know where I fell at the very start of it all. But I mean, you basically had... Israel has a problem that is going to exist for as long as it exists in the way that it is, in that it is an apartheid state.
Always staring off to space.
And the only way that you can avoid this problem that is going to persist, being an apartheid state, is if you get rid of the Palestinian people in Gaza and in the West Bank. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to kill them all. In fact, I think maybe at the start of the operation, there was an idea that they could make the situation...
You get more views if you publish videos debunking Palestine.
So unlivable.
I mean, I'll get, like... I post a reaction videos to all these things, and I post the debates I have with people. I post like everything, dude, unless I'm lazy and I don't edit them, which happens sometimes.
Into accepting them as refugees, which never happened when the bombing campaign initially began. But once that was proved to be the case, that no one was going to be accepting them as refugees, what we saw was an intense escalation of the bombing campaign on schools, on refugee camps, on hospitals, universities, churches, mosques, humanitarian facilities, buildings, homes, you name it. We also saw the efforts of Israel to deprive the people of Gaza from their standard levels of water, food, humanitarian aid, and medicine and fuel that was previously being allowed into Gaza, which was already a very low level, but they drastically reduced that, all with the aim of, again, making the situation unlivable inside of Gaza. Because no one would accept the people, and the death toll has reached such a staggering
like doing 5 tasks at
and
once.
Also, we saw the International Court of Justice say that conditions have been met for a plausible case for genocide lawsuits to be made at the ICJ surrounding the continuation of...
Yeah, I mean, he literally is. He is almost certainly compromised by Russia.
Items that they laid out in the initial hearing, I do believe it is a genocide.
Okay, ready for me?
Yes, that would be your turn.
Okay, so I think the idea that Israel's an apartheid state is absolutely ridiculous. 21% of their
Why is this mic so dog shit?
population are Arabs, 1.6% are Druze. I don't think that if a country wanted to ethnically cleanse people from their country of a certain ethnicity, they would allow them to serve in their Congress. There's roughly a dozen Arab members of the Israeli Knesset. I don't think they'd allow them to sit in the Supreme Court. Khalid Kabab is a sitting Israeli Arab, Sunni Muslim Supreme Court justice. On top of that, George Kara, an Arab Israeli Supreme Court justice, literally sentenced a Jewish president, Moshe Katz, off to prison for rape. Doesn't sound like something that would happen in an apartheid state. The word apartheid comes from South Africa. That was the name of the legislation that governed their country. It comes from the Afrikaans language. And that's what apartheid is. Yeah? It's unique to South Africa. So if you're going to claim that something is an apartheid, it's going to have to show pretty stark characteristic similarities to the thing that you're referencing, right? Apartheid South Africa. In apartheid South Africa, the white people who live there stripped the rights of every single black person who lived in the country. They stripped their citizenship. They relegated them to Bantu stands that consisted of roughly 20% of the country. They weren't allowed to own land. They weren't allowed to vote in elections. They weren't allowed to do anything outside of those Bantu stands. That's not happening in Israel. Israel allows their 20 almost a quarter of their population that are Arabs, that are Muslims, to roam the country as they see fit, to own land, to buy and do whatever they want, to work wherever they want, to serve in Congress, to which the Knesset, that's their Congress, to vote in elections, to sit on the Supreme Court, to be judges in other capacities. I think that it would be absolutely ridiculous that you could ever compare Israel to an apartheid state. You also claim that because they're an apartheid state, they're attempting to ethnically cleanse Gaza, which makes absolutely no sense. Because if you wanted to ethnically cleanse Muslims or Arabs or whatever identity trait you're talking about from a region, it seems that you probably do it in your own country first, right? If a quarter of your population are the people that you want to ethnically cleanse, it seems like you
I don't know if that's the best argument there. I mean, you could. There's no reason that they would ethnically cleanse their own population first. There's no great reason they would have to do that.
Probably take care of the people that are in your country, sitting in your government, before you'd start worrying about people in Gaza that are under their own self-determination. And also, if there was apartheid in Gaza, that doesn't even make sense because they're under the governance of Hamas. Hamas is the sole governing authority of the Gaza Strip. So
there is a blockade on Gaza, to be fair. You can make a bad argument that Israel's occupying Gaza. The funny thing about these pro-Russian influencers is that they're anything, is that they think they're anything more than useful idiots for Putin. Well, Jackson Hinkle's not a useful idiot. He is a paid idiot by the Russian government. There's no way Jackson Hinkle is not compromised, dude. But yeah, you're right.
There's apartheid in Gaza, it would be the fault of Hamas, Palestinians, right? I do think that Hamas treats their people absolutely terrible. In Gaza, a woman's testimony is worth half that of a man. They can't leave the home without the permission of a male guardian. Gay people are stoned and treated like shit. So that's one thing. You also said that Israel is committing genocide because they reduced the food and water and humanitarian aid that was going into Gaza after the war started. And they did do that for a couple hours. I think it was 12 hours. Israel is the number one provider of humanitarian aid to Gaza, both before and after the war. After the war started, Israel remained the number one importer.
But they do have the blockade. They do block humanitarian aid. There are humanitarian aid trucks lined up at the border that Israel still inspects, and they turn them away for what people say are arbitrary reasons. Jesus, how am I done? I should start drinking coffee here before I do streams.
Of humanitarian supplies into Gaza through the Karim Shalom crossing in southern Israel. Not Rafah. It wasn't Egypt providing them more resources. They were sending roughly 70 trucks per day, whereas Israel was sending 170 trucks per day. That's according to UNRWA. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous that you claim Israel's trying to kill them by cutting off their food and water supply, despite the fact that there's literally more food and water entering Gaza.
They absolutely are Russian and Iranian bots doing things in Facebook and TikTok and Twitter. Especially Twitter. There are so many Russian bots in Twitter. And then it would not surprise me.
Right now than there ever has been before.
Good one,
and the only reason that people are starving is because Hamas is doing what they've been doing for the past 30 years. They're just taking the food, they're robbing the trucks, and they're selling the food and water back to the Palestinians who can't afford it because they're living in a war-torn country. And then
I mean, there are also radical Israelis that did start tearing up the aid trucks.
Any proceeds they get to buy weapons from foreign countries. Go ahead.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but first of all, I just want to ask one clarifying question. You said Israel's allowing in how many trucks per day?
170.
Do you know how many trucks per day Israel was allowing in prior to the start of this all?
I think it was like 90.
No, prior to the start of October 7th, how many trucks?
Yeah, like...
I can't find a graph I like that, graph daily trucks entering Gaza. That like has each individual day graphed, and it has the it has the like minimum necessary. Oh, total traffic through Gaza crossing by thousands of truckloads. This isn't just aid though, but because there was one graph that showed all the times that it fell under the minimum needed to avoid famine. Israel's big trucks going into Gaza, daily big trucks. Well, it doesn't, yeah, they probably do, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's enough. And there were trucks lined up at the Rafah crossing. Was this actual data for trucks entering Gaza post October 7th? Is this from Gisha or whatever? No, it's from Russia. This is people. This looks exactly the same as the whatever Gisha graph. Let's see truck to bomb ratio. I don't know. There's a reason the ICC charged them for starvation as a method of warfare and didn't charge them for genocide.
Directly, if you're going to claim it's anything else, you're directly contradicting UNRWA, which is going to be
it's
like
500 trucks per day.
That's a lie, Jackson. You know it.
That's not a lie. You're saying that they went. You're saying that they went. No, they went at 28 trucks at the start. 28 trucks at the start of the operation. Then they went up to about 120, 140 now. But
no, it's not 140, it's 170. That's according to UNRWA, which is the UN organization designated to dealing with the Palestinian issue. And most of the people that are involved with UNRWA are literally Palestinians, and a lot of them are Hamas sympathizers. So if you're arguing with that, like, I don't know, you're going to cite the Gaza.
November 2nd, 2023. This is the stat I'm looking at. It was only 120.
Source. Yeah, it fluctuates. I said roughly 170 per day. It fluctates.
Okay, so when I say 140, 120, that's in the ballpark.
Monster storage trucks and
sure. Now, 504. Sorry.
Wait. So the other thing I want to lay out is you say Israel is the #1 importer of aid into Gaza. You do understand that a lot of that aid is coming from third-party countries, which Israel then has to check for security purposes, and that's why they are the number. I mean, Egypt is doing the same thing. You bring up the Rafah crossing. I mean, not all of that is coming from Egypt.
Sure.
A lot of that is coming from.
But it's coming through the Kareem Shalom crossing, which means Israel's allowing it into the country. Israel is the party that's allowing it into the country.
You said that Israel is the #1 supplier of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
The sugar Hamas cookies.
You specifically said Israel's the #1 supplier of humanitarian aid.
Okay, they're the #1 provider. They're the #1 country that allows it into Gaza.
They're not the #1 provider. They just allow other countries who are providing.
When you let something flow through your border into another country, are you not providing it to that country, Jackson?
No, you're just letting your.
Rare good point from Jackson. Russia compromised Hinkle here.
Jackson, they're the #1 nation that allows. They're the #1 outlet for humanitarian aid into Gaza.
If something gets shipped across the United States and it goes through 3 different state border checkpoints along the way, does that mean that it's coming?
Jackson, I'm not getting caught up in semantics. I corrected myself to a standard. I corrected myself to a standard.
Wait, let's not interrupt each other because you keep interrupting me. Okay.
Why is he drinking water?
Just because it's going through a border doesn't mean that state is the one providing the items. It means that they're just simply allowing it to go through their border. The items are coming from different countries all across the world. We see items from Africa, from Russia, from Turkey, from all over the place. Israel is not the #1 provider or supplier of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
I saw people claim that was an IDF misfire, which technically could be possible, but I doubt it's been proven yet. I doubt it's been proven either way, to be fair, but I can't wait. Oh, another porn bot followed me. That's wild, dude. Wait, this is not a porn bot? It probably is a porn bot. I just fired to Golden Heights. Yeah, I don't know. If you look at all of my followers, all of them are. These are 3 real followers, okay? This person is probably not even real, actually. Yeah, that's. Oh, no, they might be real. Jury's out on this one. And then I think 2 of my friends follow me. And everyone else is like my pussy and bio people. The Localist Party follows me, of course. Why don't Palestinians just get rid of Hamas? I mean, there's ruthless terrorists with little guns. Why not? I mean, we have been, or Israel has been trying to give arms to Palestinians who fight Hamas. That's how Hamas came into existence, because Israel was giving Hamas arms to fight Fatah, right? Why don't Palestinian children that lived through the totally justified bombings just climb out of the rumble, do a double backflip, and snap Hamas's neck? True. Palestinians elected and supported October 7th, according to the polls, I think. Yeah, even if Palestinians in the West Bank are like 80% in support of October 7th.
So, Jackson, I already corrected myself. Let's not get caught up in semantics. I literally specified when I said it that the aid is crossing through the Kareem Shalom.
You never fucking read the full article.
Border, or the Kareem Shalom crossing. And then after you said, well, they're not the provider, I literally, again, specified they're the #1 outlet. Does that make you happy?
So you do admit that they're not the #1. Israel's
I just said they're the #1 provider.
Really secret plan to put anti-Hamas Palestinians in charge of Gaza aid.
Getting caught up in this little tiny detail because you know you can't argue with me. You're afraid, Jackson, so keep going.
I just want to clarify.
Are you going to actually respond?
You admit that, just for the record.
Yeah, I did it 3 times, Jackson. I did it 3 times, Jackson. Are you going to get back to the debate, or are you going to try to bog down every little detail?
You seem like you don't want to say it. Will you just say it?
I said Israel is the #1 outlet for humanitarian aid into Gaza. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're providing each crate that goes in. So go ahead and respond to the
Now, the other points that I wanted to bring up from your initial statement is that you brought up brought up the percentage of Arabs living in Israel. Okay. Do you know what the percentage of black people was in apartheid South Africa?
In apartheid, zero. There was no black citizens in apartheid South Africa because the apartheid South African government stripped the black people of their citizenship, thus making them no longer citizens of the country. The people in Israel, the quarter of the population that are Arabs, are full right-bearing citizens of Israel.
There was no black people living under apartheid South Africa? Not one?
No, they were living in Bantustans with no citizenship, and it's not semantics. It does matter because you're saying, oh, well, there were black people like in the borders of South Africa. Those people weren't citizens.
Oh, both. How did this guy is a literal psyop, dude. He debated Jackson Hinkle. It got 193 views. He's super popular on Instagram somehow. This guy's a industry plant.
They weren't full. They weren't.
It didn't like this one. Man, those fucking 5-year-olds, they're so evil. They went back to 2006 and elected Hamas. Fucking evil, I tell you. I mean, a lot of people make the argument that the fucking Hamas, or sorry, not Hamas, Palestinians should have the right to the lands that were stolen to them in fucking 1948 or whatever. Which the 5-year-olds, I doubt the 5-year-olds in Palestine really care about that. Is there dead pics on my monitor? No, there isn't, thank God.
Full rights bearing, but in Israel they are.
One could argue that they
read it from the
in a better position than all of the people from. Wait, stop interrupting me. What?
Does matter because you're saying, oh, well, there were black people like in the borders of South Africa. Those people weren't citizens. They weren't full rights bearing, but in Israel they are.
One could argue that they were in a better position than all of the people from. Wait, stop interrupting me. One could argue they were in a preferential position when compared to all the people of Palestine's history pre-1948 who've been stripped of their homes and their land and aren't even allowed back in the country. There's no right to return for them.
So are you going to make a single argument that Israel's committing a genocide, or are you going to get bogged down in claiming that people in South Africa were under better conditions than people in Gaza?
Let's stop interrupting me because you were the one that said these things and I'm just responding to you. You said,
I was responding to you.
Oh my God! Like, is this the what organization are you from? Today America? Is this the best that Today America has? Okay, so 76% of the South African population was black during apartheid South Africa. So your argument falls flat on its face when you say, oh, well, there's X many percent of Arabs that are living inside of Israel's official borders. Okay, so I think to respond to all of your points, that's basically what I had to say, even though I was interrupted a lot.
Yeah, okay, Jackson. So again, as I said before, and
I did interrupt
you a couple times, but primarily when I was speaking, you asked me questions. So 71% of the population in South Africa during apartheid may have been black, but they weren't citizens. 21% of Israel's citizenry.
I didn't say citizens. I said living under.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm honing in on here, Jackson. 21% of the population in Israel are citizens. They're Arab citizens, full right-bearing citizens. The 71% of the population in South Africa that were black were not full rights-bearing citizens. They weren't citizens at all because their citizenship was stripped from them. They weren't allowed to do anything. They weren't allowed to buy property. They weren't allowed to do business. They weren't allowed to vote. They weren't allowed to serve in government. In Israel, the Arab citizens of the country are allowed to vote. They're allowed to serve in government. They have the exact same rights as Jewish citizens. Roughly a dozen members of the Israeli Knesset, their parliament, are Arabs. There's an Arab Israeli member of the Supreme Court, Khalid Kabab. Again, an Arab Israeli Supreme Court Justice, George Kara, sentenced a Jewish Israeli president to prison for rape. Okay, that would never happen in apartheid South Africa. But we can keep. Like, I don't know what you want to do here. The topic is Israel committing a genocide? And you brought up apartheid, and now you're getting destroyed on that. So can we get back to the original topic?
And damn, Higby. Jackson Hinkle debate. Didn't know I owned my whole side. I like to think that all mathematicians should honor. I do also want reparation for anyone who uses my side to calculate volume and shape. It's true. We're not watching this full hour thing, but like, what? He streamed this 2 weeks. Why is it so low quality? This guy is not real.